My daughter-in-law pushed me down the stairs to try and claim the life insurance. When I recovered, I made her regret it for the rest of her life. I'm glad to have you here. Follow my story until the end and comment the city you're watching from, so I can see how far my story has reached. The hospital room was too bright and smelled of antiseptic. I blinked slowly, trying to make sense of where I was. Every inch of my body ached, especially my right hip and shoulder. A constant beeping from the monitors reminded me I was still alive, though at that moment, I wasn't sure if that was a blessing. "Mrs. Thelma, can you hear me?" A nurse with kind eyes appeared in my line of vision. "You've had a fall. You're at Mercy General." A fall. Fragments of memories flashed through my mind. The top of the staircase, a sudden loss of balance, tumbling down, 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 and then nothing. "My son," I whispered, my voice raspy from disuse. "Is my son here?" "Marcus has been here every day," the nurse said, adjusting my IV. "He and his wife just stepped out for coffee. They'll be back soon." His wife, Azalea, my daughter-in-law of 5 years, the woman who had swept into my son's life like a whirlwind, charming everyone with her bright smile and vibrant personality. Everyone except me. There was always something in her eyes when she looked at me, something calculating. I tried to sit up, but sharp pain shot through my hip. "How long have I been here?" 3 days. You've been in and out of consciousness. You broke your hip, fractured your shoulder, and had a concussion. You're lucky it wasn't worse, Mrs. Thelma. Lucky. I didn't feel lucky. At 68, a broken hip wasn't just painful. It was potentially life-changing. I had always prided myself on my independence, especially since my divorce from Harold 12 years ago. The thought of being dependent on others, particularly on Marcus and Azalea, made my stomach churn. I must have dozed off because when I opened my eyes again, the light in the room had changed. Low voices were coming from just outside my door. I recognized them immediately. Marcus and Azalea. "Don't understand why it's taking so long," Azalea was saying, her voice pitched low but intense. "The doctor said she should be fully conscious by now." "She's 68, not 30. Recovery takes time." My son sounded tired, worried. "I know, but—" Azalea paused. "What about the policy? Do they need her signature or anything?" "What policy?" Marcus asked, confusion evident in his tone. There was a moment of silence. "The life insurance," Azalea finally said, her voice so quiet I almost missed it. "The one we took out last year." My heart began to race. The monitor beside me beeping faster. Life insurance? What life insurance? I had a small policy that Harold and I had purchased decades ago, but nothing that would be worth mentioning at a time like this. "Jesus, my mother is lying in there with a broken hip and you're talking about insurance?" Marcus sounded disgusted. "That's for if she... this was just an accident." "Was it?" A chill ran through me as I recalled the moments before my fall. I had been at the top of the stairs, gathering laundry. I remembered hearing footsteps behind me, feeling a presence. Had someone been there? Had I really just lost my balance? "Of course it was an accident," Azalea said quickly. "I'm just saying, with the medical bills and everything, it's good we have coverage." Their voices faded as they moved away from the door. I lay there, my mind racing despite the fog of pain medication. Why would they take out a life insurance policy on me without telling me? And why was Azalea so interested in it after what was supposedly an accident? The next few days passed in a blur of doctors, tests, and physical therapy sessions. Marcus visited daily, his face lined with genuine concern. Azalea came less frequently, always with a bouquet of flowers and a smile that never reached her eyes. "We've fixed up the guest room downstairs for you, Mom," Marcus told me a week after my fall. "So you won't have to deal with the stairs during your recovery." "That's thoughtful," I said, watching his face carefully. It must have been Azalea's idea. A flicker of something, discomfort, crossed his features. "Actually, she suggested a nursing home at first, but I insisted you come home with us." "Of course she did." I forced a smile. "Well, I appreciate it. I promise I won't be a burden for long." "You're never a burden, Mom," he said, squeezing my hand. But as I looked into his tired eyes, I wondered if that was true. Had I become a burden to my son? Was that why Azalea wanted me gone? Or was there something more sinister at play? The day before my discharge, when I was alone in my room, I asked the nurse to help me make a phone call. Not to Marcus, but to my old friend Diane, who had retired from the insurance industry. "Diane," I said when she answered, "I need to ask you something. If someone takes out a life insurance policy on another person, don't they need that person's consent?" "Generally, yes," Diane replied, "unless they can prove insurable interest, like a spouse or dependent. Why do you ask?" I took a deep breath. "Because I think my daughter-in-law pushed me down the stairs to collect on a policy I didn't know existed." Coming home to Marcus and Azalea's house felt strange. It had been my home for the past 3 years, ever since I sold my place to help Marcus with the down payment. Yet now, looking at the familiar cream-colored walls and family photos, everything seemed different, threatening somehow. "Mom, I've got your room all set up," Marcus said, guiding me gently through the front door, my walker thumping against the hardwood floors. I hated that walker. Hated the vulnerability it represented. The guest room had been transformed with a hospital bed, a bedside commode, and grab bars in the adjacent bathroom. So much effort for someone Azalea apparently wanted dead. "It's perfect," I lied, lowering myself carefully onto the bed. "You've thought of everything." "Well, the hospital gave us a list," Azalea said, appearing in the doorway with an artificial smile. "The physical therapist will come Tuesdays and Thursdays. I've written it on the calendar." "Thank you, dear," I said, matching her false sweetness. Two could play this game. That night, after Marcus brought me dinner on a tray and Azalea made a show of fluffing my pillows while he watched, I lay awake planning. If my suspicions were correct, I couldn't confront them directly. I needed evidence. I needed to understand what was happening in my own home. The next morning, when I was alone, Marcus at work, Azalea supposedly at the grocery store, I forced myself up. Each movement sent pain shooting through my hip, but determination pushed me forward. I had exactly 47 minutes, according to Azalea's schedule on the refrigerator. Their bedroom was upstairs, inaccessible to me now, but Marcus's home office was just down the hall. I shuffled there slowly, gripping my walker, sweat beading on my forehead from the effort. The office was neat, organized. My son had always been methodical. I started with the filing cabinet, labeled meticulously, automotive, banking, house, insurance. My trembling fingers pulled open the insurance drawer. Inside were folders for everything: home, auto, health, life. I pulled out the life folder with shaking hands. There, on top, was a policy I'd never seen before. Thelma Lancaster, insured for $500,000. Beneficiaries: Marcus Lancaster, 20%, Azalea Lancaster, 80%. My stomach lurched. 80% to Azalea? I flipped through the paperwork, looking for my signature. There it was, on the final page. Except it wasn't my signature. Someone had forged it, and rather poorly at that. The T was all wrong. I looped mine, and this one was angular. I took photos of everything with the cell phone Marcus had insisted I carry in case of emergency. Then I carefully replaced the documents exactly as I'd found them. Next, I checked Marcus's desk drawers. Nothing unusual until I reached the bottom one. Locked. Using a letter opener, I managed to jimmy it open, wincing as pain shot through my shoulder. Inside was a stack of overdue bills and collection notices, all addressed to Azalea. Credit cards maxed out at $30,000. A personal loan default notice. Gambling debts from an Atlantic City casino, all dated within the last year, all hidden from Marcus. So that was it. Azalea was drowning in debt, and I was worth more dead than alive. I photographed these documents too, then locked the drawer and erased all signs of my search. I made it back to my room just as I heard Azalea's key in the front door. "Thelma? I'm back," she called out, her voice syrupy sweet. "I got those prunes you like." I'd never liked prunes in my life. Over the next few days, I played the role of grateful mother-in-law. I ate the food Azalea prepared, took the pills she handed me, and pretended not to notice how she tensed whenever Marcus showed me affection. But when they thought I was napping, I listened. And when they thought I was too medicated to function, I searched. I found Azalea's tablet one afternoon while she was in the shower. She'd left it on the kitchen counter, unlocked. Her search history told a chilling story. Undetectable poisons. How long for hip to heal elderly. Second-story falls fatality rates. And most damning of all, life insurance payout accidental death versus natural causes. I forwarded the most incriminating emails to myself, then deleted the sent message from her outbox. Just as I heard the shower turn off, I returned the tablet exactly where I'd found it. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my thoughts racing. My own daughter-in-law had tried to kill me. Was still trying, perhaps. But why hadn't she succeeded? A woman who methodically researched untraceable poisons surely could have finished the job by now. Unless she needed it to look natural. The insurance policy probably had a suicide exclusion, maybe even a murder investigation clause. A fall could be explained as an accident. Food poisoning might raise questions. I needed help, but who could I trust? Not Marcus. He was too in love with Azalea to believe she was capable of this. Not the police. I had suspicions, but no concrete proof of attempted murder. My ex-husband, Harold? No, he was remarried and living in Florida. My sister lived in Oregon, too far to help with immediate concerns. Then I remembered Judith Miller, Azalea's former best friend. They'd had a falling out last year that neither would explain. I'd always liked Judith. She seemed genuine in a way Azalea never did. I waited until the next day when I was alone again. My physical therapist, Caroline, had just left after our session. She was a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who pushed me harder than I thought possible. "You're recovering well, Thelma," she'd said. "Much faster than most patients your age with similar injuries." That information was both encouraging and terrifying. How long before Azalea realized her window of opportunity was closing? With trembling fingers, I found Judith's number in my old contact book and dialed. "Mrs. Lancaster?" She sounded surprised. "Is everything okay?" "Judith," I said quietly, constantly listening for Azalea's return. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Why did you and Azalea stop being friends?" A long pause. "Why are you asking this now?" "Because I think my life depends on it." Another pause, longer this time. Then Judith's voice, lower now, intense. "Has she done something to you?" "She pushed me down the stairs," I said, the words feeling surreal as they left my mouth. "And I think she's planning to finish the job." "Oh my God," Judith whispered. "The same thing happened to her first mother-in-law." My blood ran cold. "What?" "That's why I ended our friendship. I found out she was married before, briefly, to an older man with money. His mother died in a fall. Azalea inherited everything. There was an investigation, but nothing was ever proven." I closed my eyes, my worst fears confirmed. "Judith, I need your help." "I'll be there in 20 minutes, she said without hesitation. "And Thelma, don't eat or drink anything she gives you." As I hung up the phone, I heard a key in the front door. Azalea was home early, and from the sharp look in her eyes as she entered my room, I wondered if she somehow knew what I'd discovered. "You're looking better today, Thelma," Azalea said, placing a glass of water and 2 pills on my bedside table. Her smile was practiced, perfect, and completely hollow. "Time for your medication." I stared at the pills. One was my prescribed pain reliever, white, oval, with a distinctive marking. The other was smaller, round, and unmarked, definitely not from my prescription bottle. "What's that one?" I asked, pointing to the mystery pill, my voice deliberately weak and confused. "Just your vitamin," Azalea replied smoothly. "The doctor said it would help with healing." The doctor had said no such thing. I'd made a point of memorizing every instruction from every medical professional who'd seen me. "Oh," I said vaguely, feigning the mental fog of an elderly woman on heavy medication. "Would you mind writing down my pill schedule? I get so confused these days." A flash of annoyance crossed Azalea's face before her mask of concern returned. "Of course, I'll make a chart for you. Why don't you take these now, and I'll get started on that." I reached for the glass and pills with a trembling hand, not entirely an act. "I should wait for Marcus," I mumbled. "He likes to check my medication." Azalea's eyes hardened. Marcus is working late. He asked me to take care of you. She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper that only I could hear. Don't make this difficult, Thelma. A chill ran through me. The threat in her voice was unmistakable. I nodded meekly and put the pills in my mouth, taking a sip of water. Azalea watched intently as I swallowed, then smiled with satisfaction. Good. I'll come check on you in a bit. She turned and left, closing the door behind her. The moment she was gone, I reached for the tissue I'd hidden in my sleeve and spat the pills into it. I'd learned that trick as a nurse 50 years ago, when patients would sometimes hide their medication. I never thought I'd be using it to save my own life. I wrapped the pills carefully in the tissue and tucked them under my mattress. Evidence for later. Then I settled back against my pillows and closed my eyes, listening to Azalea moving around the kitchen. A soft vibration came from beneath my pillow. My phone. A text from Judith. Outside. Back door. 5 men. I needed to create a distraction. Mustering my strength, I knocked my water glass to the floor. The crash brought Azalea running. What happened? She asked, eyes darting around the room suspiciously. I'm so sorry, I said, my voice wavering. I reached for my water and knocked it over. I'm just so clumsy these days. Azalea's expression softened, though her eyes remained calculating. Don't worry about it. I'll clean it up. While she went to get a towel, I quickly texted Judith. Bedroom window, Azalea here. Azalea returned and bent to clean up the spilled water and broken glass. You need to be more careful, Thelma. At your age, every accident is serious. I know, I said, playing up my frailty. I'm so grateful for your patience. She nodded, seemingly pleased by my submission. Rest now. I'll bring you some soup later. After she left, I waited 10 agonizing minutes, listening to her moving around the house. Finally, I heard the shower running upstairs. Moving as quietly as possible, I eased myself out of bed and shuffled to the window. Judith was there, her face tight with concern. I unlocked the window and slid it open just enough for us to talk. Thelma, thank God, she whispered. Are you okay? For now, I replied, keeping my voice low. But she just tried to give me some unmarked pill. I need you to take it to be tested. I retrieved the tissue from under my mattress and passed it through the window crack to Judith. My brother's a pharmacist, she said, carefully pocketing the tissue. He can analyze this. What else do you need? Time, I said, and proof. I've been documenting everything, but I need more. Can you do some digging into her past? The previous mother-in-law who died? Judith nodded. Already on it. Her first husband was Gregory Whitman. His mother, Patricia, died 3 years ago. Broken neck from a fall down the stairs. The investigation was closed due to insufficient evidence, but I have a friend who works for the county records office. I'll see what I can find. Thank you, I said, relief washing over me. And Judith, be careful. She's dangerous. I know, Judith replied grimly. She threatened me when I confronted her about Patricia Whitman, said I'd regret sticking my nose where it didn't belong. The shower upstairs turned off. You need to go, I whispered urgently, already sliding the window closed. Judith disappeared into the bushes just as I heard Azalea's footsteps on the stairs. The next morning, Marcus sat at my bedside before leaving for work, his face creased with worry. Are you sure you're okay, Mom? You seem different. I patted his hand. I'm just tired, sweetheart. Recovery is hard at my age. He frowned. Maybe we should get a second opinion. You were making such good progress, but now you seem worse. Oh, I don't think that's necessary, I said, my voice deliberately weak. Azalea is taking such good care of me. Something flickered in his eyes. Doubt? Suspicion? Still, I think I'll call Dr. Evans today. After he left, Azalea came in with my breakfast and more pills. The unmarked one was back. Marcus mentioned calling Dr. Evans, she said casually, watching me closely. I blinked up at her, the picture of confusion. Did he? I don't remember. You've been very forgetful lately, she said, her voice honeyed with fake concern. I'm worried about you, Thelma. Maybe we should talk to the doctor about your mental state. I understood her game now. If she couldn't kill me quickly, she'd try to convince everyone I was losing my mind. Then she could control my care completely, and my end would come soon after. You're probably right, I said, acting frightened and bewildered. I keep having these strange thoughts, like someone is trying to hurt me. Azalea stiffened. That's concerning. Paranoia can be a sign of dementia. I know, I sighed. Maybe I should talk to Marcus about it. No, she said quickly. Let me handle it. You'll just worry him unnecessarily. I nodded meekly and took my medication, hiding the mystery pill once again. As soon as she left, I spat it out and added it to my growing collection of evidence. Later that day, my physical therapist Caroline arrived. Azalea hovered nearby during the first part of our session, but eventually left to take a phone call. Caroline, I whispered urgently, I need your help. She looked startled by my sudden clarity and strength. What's wrong? My daughter-in-law is trying to kill me. I know how it sounds, but please, just listen. To her credit, Caroline didn't immediately dismiss me. She studied my face, then nodded. Go on. I quickly explained about the insurance policy, the unmarked pills, Azalea's previous mother-in-law. Caroline's professional demeanor didn't crack, but her eyes widened. I need you to document my actual condition, I said. Write in your official notes that I'm mentally sharp, physically improving. Make it clear that any deterioration would be suspicious. Caroline nodded slowly. I can do that. And I'll give you my personal number. Call me anytime. By the time Azalea returned, Caroline and I were back to normal exercises, with me deliberately performing more poorly than I had in our previous sessions. That evening, my phone vibrated with a text from Judith. Pills analyzed. Powerful sedative mixed with heart medication. Dangerous dose for someone your age. It'd wait. Gathering more info on Patricia W. Call you tomorrow. I closed my eyes, fear and vindication washing through me in equal measure. I wasn't paranoid. Azalea was trying to kill me, slowly but surely. The next day, Marcus took a rare day off work to stay with me. Azalea was clearly displeased, but hid it well. You don't need to babysit me, she told him over breakfast. I've got everything under control. It's not babysitting, Marcus replied. I just want to spend time with my mother. I pretended to doze in my room, listening to their conversation in the kitchen. She's getting worse, not better, Azalea was saying. Mentally, I mean. She's having paranoid thoughts, forgetting things. That doesn't sound like Mom, Marcus said, concern evident in his voice. People change when they age, Azalea insisted. Remember how your boss's mother got? One day fine. The next day accusing the nurses of stealing her jewelry? There was a long pause. Maybe we should consider that nursing home after all, Marcus finally said, his voice heavy with reluctance. My heart sank. Despite my documentation, despite my careful planning, Azalea was winning. My own son was beginning to doubt me. I needed to change tactics. Playing weak and confused had protected me temporarily, but it was time to fight back. When Marcus came to check on me later, I was sitting up in bed, alert and clear-eyed. Mom, he said, surprised by my appearance. You look better. I feel better, I said firmly. And I need to talk to you about something important. He sat on the edge of my bed, worry creasing his brow. What is it? I took a deep breath. This was it, the moment of truth. There's something you need to know about Azalea. Marcus's face hardened before I could even begin. If this is about Azalea suggesting the nursing home, Mom, she's just concerned about you. We both are. I shook my head. It's not that, Marcus. It's... Mom, he interrupted, his voice gentle but firm. I know it's hard to accept help, especially from Azalea. You two have never really connected, but she's trying. My heart sank. He wasn't ready to hear the truth. If I told him now, with no proof but my word against hers, I'd only push him further into her arms, and myself closer to that nursing home where she could control everything. I just wanted to thank her, I lied, forcing a smile, for all she's doing. Could you ask her to come see me? Relief washed over his face. Of course. I'm glad you're finally warming up to each other. As soon as he left, I texted Judith. Need more concrete evidence now. Marcus won't believe me yet. Azalea appeared in my doorway moments later, her smile not reaching her eyes. Marcus said you wanted to talk to me. Yes, I said, matching her false warmth. I wanted to thank you for everything, and to apologize for being difficult. Suspicion flickered across her face. That's very kind of you, Thelma. I've been thinking, I continued, hating every word, that maybe you're right about the nursing home. I don't want to be a burden. Azalea's eyes lit up with triumph, though she quickly masked it with concern. You're never a burden, Thelma, but I do think professional care might be best for someone in your condition. I'd like to visit some facilities first, I said. Would you take me tomorrow? Just the two of us? I'd like your opinion. Of course, she agreed readily. Too readily. I know just the place. After she left, I called Caroline, my physical therapist. I need a favor, I said without preamble. A big one. An hour later, I was on the phone with Judith. Did you find anything concrete? I asked desperately. Better than concrete, Judith replied. I found a witness. Patricia Whitman's home health aide, Rosalie Jenkins. She suspected Azalea from the beginning but couldn't prove anything. She's willing to talk to you, and the police if necessary. Hope surged through me. Where is she now? Working at Sunset Gardens nursing home. I nearly dropped the phone. What did you say? Sunset Gardens. It's a nursing home in… I know where it is, I interrupted. That's where Azalea wants to take me tomorrow. There was a long, heavy silence. Thelma, Judith finally said, you can't go there with her. It's too dangerous. It's the perfect opportunity, I argued. I can meet Rosalie, get her statement, and Azalea won't try anything in public. You don't know that, Judith countered. She's desperate. The insurance company called her yesterday asking questions about the policy. My friend at the county records pulled some strings. I closed my eyes, thinking rapidly. That only makes this more urgent. Call Rosalie. Tell her to expect me tomorrow around 11. And Judith? Thank you for believing me. Just be careful, she said softly. I already lost one friend to that woman. I don't want to lose another. The next morning, Azalea was bright and cheerful, helping me into the passenger seat of her car with exaggerated care. You're going to love Sunset Gardens, she said, pulling out of the driveway. It's so… peaceful. I nodded, clutching my purse tightly. Inside was my phone, already set to record, and a small notebook detailing everything I'd discovered so far. I'm sure it's lovely. The drive was tense, at least for me. Azalea chattered about nothing, occasionally glancing at me with that calculating look I'd come to dread. Sunset Gardens was indeed beautiful. Landscaped grounds, a Spanish-style building, large windows overlooking a courtyard. It looked nothing like the sterile institution I'd feared. A cheerful administrator greeted us in the lobby. Mrs. Lancaster, we're so pleased you're considering Sunset Gardens. I'm Heather, and I'll be showing you around today. Azalea shook her hand. Azalea Lancaster, Thelma's daughter-in-law. We're very interested in your memory care unit. Memory care, I said, feigning confusion. But my doctor hasn't diagnosed me with anything like that. Heather looked uncomfortable. We do have a comprehensive evaluation process before any placement decisions are made. Of course, Azalea said smoothly. But given her recent confusion and paranoia, we want to be prepared. The tour proceeded awkwardly, with Azalea emphasizing my supposed mental decline at every opportunity. I played along, appearing distracted and occasionally disoriented. When we reached the physical therapy department, I saw her, a short, dark-haired woman in scrubs, watching us intently. Rosalie, could I use the restroom? I asked, pointing to a door marked Ladies near where Rosalie stood. I'll help you, Azalea offered immediately. I'm not that helpless yet, I said with a forced laugh. I'll just be a minute. Before she could object, I shuffled toward the bathroom, moving slowly with my walker. Rosalie followed me inside. Mrs. Lancaster? She asked quietly once the door closed behind us. I nodded. And you're Rosalie? Judith told me about you. Yes. Her eyes were dark with concern. When I heard your name, I couldn't believe it. She's doing it again. I need your help, I said urgently. Tell me everything you remember about Patricia Whitman's death. Rosalie's words tumbled out in a whispered rush. Mrs. Whitman was recovering from hip surgery, just like you. Azalea was always so sweet when her husband was around, but when they were alone, she shuddered. I noticed Mrs. Whitman getting weaker, more confused. The doctor said it was normal post-operative depression, but I wasn't convinced. Did you see anything specific? I pressed. Once, Rosalie said, her voice dropping even lower. I came in early and saw Azalea adding something to Mrs. Whitman's tea. When I asked about it, she said it was honey, but Mrs. Whitman was diabetic. Did you report it? To the agency, yes. They said they'd investigate, but nothing came of it. 2 days later, Mrs. Whitman fell down the stairs. Azalea said she was trying to go down on her own, despite warnings. It was so similar to what happened to me that my skin crawled. Would you be willing to make a statement to the police? Yes, Rosalie said without hesitation. I should have pushed harder last time. I won't make that mistake again. There was a sharp knock on the door. Thelma? Azalea called. Are you okay in there? Fine, dear, I called back, my voice deliberately shaky. Just old bones moving slowly? I'll be right out. Rosalie quickly scribbled her number on a piece of paper and handed it to me. Call me anytime. And Mrs. Lancaster? Don't eat or drink anything she gives you. I tucked the paper into my bra, then flushed the toilet and ran the sink for appearances. When I emerged, Azalea was waiting, her face a mask of concern. I was getting worried, she said, taking my arm. You were in there a long time. Everything takes longer at my age, I replied with a self-deprecating smile. The rest of the tour passed in a blur. Azalea asked pointed questions about security measures, visitor policies, and medication management. I noted with growing alarm how often she emphasized my supposed mental decline and how the staff seemed to accept her assessment without question. Back in the car, Azalea was jubilant. I think that went well. I'll call them tomorrow to start the paperwork. So soon? I asked, unable to keep the fear from my voice. The sooner the better, she said, patting my hand condescendingly. You need proper care, Thelma, more than Marcus and I can provide. That evening, while Azalea prepared dinner, I called Caroline from my bedroom. Everything's set, Caroline confirmed. Dr. Evans will be there at 9 tomorrow for a home evaluation. He's bringing a geriatric psychiatrist, Dr. Levine. They'll document your mental state officially. Thank you, I breathed. What about the other matter? My brother's a detective with the county sheriff's office, Caroline said. He's very interested in speaking with you, especially after seeing the lab results from those pills, but he needs more than just the pills and your word. I have more now, I said. A witness to a previous case, similar circumstances, and documented evidence of the insurance policy. That might be enough for an investigation, Caroline said cautiously. But not necessarily an arrest. You need to be careful, Thelma. If Azalea suspects you're building a case against her... I know, I said grimly. That's why I've been playing along with this nursing home idea. It buys me time. A soft knock on my bedroom door made me jump. Mom? It was Marcus. Can I come in? I have to go, I whispered to Caroline. Tomorrow at 9. I ended the call just as Marcus entered. His face was drawn with worry. Mom, I've been thinking about this nursing home thing. Are you really okay with it? I hesitated, searching his face. Was he finally seeing through Azalea's facade? To be honest, no, I admitted, but Azalea seems to think it's for the best. Marcus sat on the edge of my bed, running a hand through his hair. She's just concerned about your health. We both are. I know, sweetheart, I said, patting his hand. But I'd feel more comfortable if my regular doctor evaluated me first, just to make sure we're making the right decision. He looked relieved. I was thinking the same thing. I've already called Dr. Evans. He's coming tomorrow morning. I smiled, feeling a surge of hope. My son wasn't completely under Azalea's spell after all. Later that night, my phone buzzed with a text from Judith. Found something big. Azalea changed her name 5 years ago. Before that, she was Angela Winters. 2 previous marriages, both to wealthy older men, both ended when they died unexpectedly. Call me ASAP. I stared at the message, my blood running cold. This wasn't just opportunistic murder, it was a pattern, a career. And my son was married to this predator. I was about to call Judith when my bedroom door opened silently. Azalea stood in the doorway, watching me with cold, calculating eyes. "Who are you texting at this hour, Thelma?" she asked softly, her voice like ice. I quickly set my phone down, heart pounding. Just an old friend. I couldn't sleep. She moved into the room, fluid as a snake. An old friend? How nice. Anyone I know? I doubt it, I said, forcing a smile. Just catching up. Azalea sat on the edge of my bed, too close for comfort. Marcus told me Dr. Evans is coming tomorrow. Was that your idea? I just thought a professional opinion would help us make the right decision, I said carefully. She studied my face, her eyes narrowing slightly. You seem sharper tonight, more like your old self. I feigned confusion. Do I? I'm just tired, I think. She reached out and picked up my water glass from the bedside table. You should stay hydrated. It helps with recovery. She held the glass out to me, her eyes never leaving mine. A challenge. Thank you, I said, taking the glass but not drinking. I'll finish it before I go to sleep. A tense silence stretched between us. She knew I suspected her, and I knew she knew. Well, she finally said, standing up, try to get some rest. Tomorrow will be a big day. After she left, I poured the water into my bedpan and hid the glass under my bed. One more piece of evidence for tomorrow. But as I lay awake in the darkness, I wondered if I would live to see the morning. Azalea was cornered, and that made her more dangerous than ever. I didn't sleep that night. Every creak of the house, every shadow that passed my door sent my heart racing. I kept my phone clutched in my hand, 911 pre-dialed. If Azalea decided to make her move, I wouldn't go without a fight. Dawn came. Pale light filtering through my curtains. I was still alive. But the day ahead would be the most dangerous yet. At 7:30, Marcus knocked gently on my door. Mom, you awake? Come in, I called, quickly smoothing my hair and sitting up straighter. He entered with a tray of breakfast. Toast, scrambled eggs, orange juice. I made you breakfast, he said with a small smile. Like you used to make for me when I was sick. My heart melted. That's very sweet, honey. Azalea had to run some errands before Dr. Evans arrives, he explained, setting the tray across my lap. She seemed upset about something. Did you two have words last night? I hesitated, then decided on a partial truth. She came in while I was texting an old friend. Maybe she thought it was odd I was up so late. Marcus frowned. She's been acting strange lately. Tense. Secretive. He sat on the edge of my bed. Mom, can I ask you something? Honestly? I nodded, hope rising in my chest. Have you noticed anything off about Azalea? Especially since your accident? Why do you ask? I countered carefully. He rubbed the back of his neck, a gesture he'd had since childhood when he was troubled. I found something in her desk drawer yesterday. I wasn't snooping, I was looking for stamps, but... He paused, conflicted. It was a life insurance policy, on you, for $500,000. I see, I said, keeping my voice neutral. And you didn't know about this policy? No, he exclaimed. I would never, he trailed off, his expression darkening. The signature didn't look like yours either. The moment I'd been waiting for had arrived, but I needed to tread carefully. Marcus, I said gently, there's something I need to show you. I reached for my phone and pulled up the photos I'd taken, the forged insurance documents, Azalea's search history, the bills she'd hidden from him. As he scrolled through them, his face grew paler. This can't be real, he whispered. Azalea wouldn't, she couldn't. There's more, I said, showing him the unmarked pills I'd saved. She's been trying to drug me. A lab analysis showed they contain a dangerous combination of sedatives and heart medication. Marcus stood up abruptly, pacing the small room. Why? Why would she do this? Money, I said simply. She's deeply in debt, Marcus. Gambling, credit cards, loans. She saw me as a solution. He stopped pacing, his back to me. You're saying my wife pushed you down the stairs, that she's been slowly poisoning you, that she forged an insurance policy to profit from your death. His voice was flat, disbelieving. I know how it sounds, I acknowledged. But there's more you need to know. This isn't the first time she's done this. I told him everything. About Patricia Whitman, about Rosalie's testimony, about the name change Judith had discovered. With each revelation, Marcus seemed to fold in on himself, as if physically wounded. Dr. Evans will be here soon, I finished gently. He'll evaluate me and document that I'm mentally competent. A detective is coming too. I didn't want to involve the police without talking to you first, but you were right to investigate, Marcus interrupted, his voice hollow. If even half of this is true. The sound of a car door slamming interrupted us. Through the window, I saw Azalea getting out of her car, her face set in determined lines. She's back, I said quietly. Marcus straightened, his expression hardening. I'll handle this. Marcus, wait. But he was already striding out of the room, a man on a mission. I heard the front door open, heard Azalea's falsely bright greeting, then Marcus's cold response. We need to talk, Azalea. Now. I eased myself out of bed and shuffled to my doorway, straining to hear. What's wrong? Azalea asked, her voice concerned but with an undercurrent of wariness. I found the insurance policy, Marcus said bluntly. A beat of silence. What insurance policy? Don't, Marcus snapped. Don't lie to me. The life insurance policy you took out on my mother, the one with the forged signature. Oh, that, Azalea said, her voice lightening with apparent relief. I was going to tell you about that. It was supposed to be a surprise, a security measure, for both of you. A surprise! Marcus's voice dripped with disbelief. A $500,000 policy that pays out 80% to you if she dies is a surprise? You're making it sound sinister, Azalea protested. It's just financial planning. And the pills you've been giving her, the ones that aren't in her prescription bottle, is that financial planning too? Another pause, longer this time. When Azalea spoke again, her voice had changed, colder, harder. She's been talking to you, hasn't she? Turning you against me with her paranoid delusions. She showed me evidence. Azalea, lab results, forged documents, your search history about untraceable poisons and insurance payouts. She's lying, Azalea shouted, her composure finally cracking. She's always hated me, always tried to come between us. Can't you see she's manipulating you? The only one manipulating anyone is you, Marcus replied, his voice ice cold. I want you out of this house, now. You can't be serious, Azalea said, her tone shifting to wounded disbelief. Marcus, baby, this is all a misunderstanding. Your mother is confused, paranoid. That's why we were considering the nursing home, remember? For her own good. Stop it, Marcus said, his voice shaking with anger. Just stop. I know about Patricia Whitman. I know about your name change. I know everything, Azalea. Or should I call you Angela? The silence that followed was deafening. Then I heard a sound that made my blood run cold. A soft, menacing laugh. You know nothing, Azalea said, her voice completely transformed, empty of the warmth and charm she usually affected. Nothing at all. There was a sudden commotion, a crash, a shout from Marcus. Fear propelled me forward. I grabbed my walker and moved as quickly as I could toward the living room. The scene that greeted me was chaos. A lamp lay shattered on the floor. Marcus was clutching his arm, blood seeping between his fingers. And Azalea stood between us, a kitchen knife in her hand, her beautiful face contorted with rage. Look who decided to join us, she said, turning toward me with that knife. The meddling mother-in-law who couldn't mind her own business. Azalea, I said calmly, though my heart was hammering. Put the knife down. Dr. Evans will be here any minute. No, he won't, she replied with a cold smile. I called and canceled, said you were too confused today for an evaluation. Isn't that convenient? Marcus moved toward her, his face pale but determined. Azalea, this is insane. Give me the knife. She whirled back to him, the knife pointed at his chest. Stay back. Both of you, sit down. Now. We complied, Marcus helping me to the couch while keeping himself between me and Azalea. What's your plan here? He asked her, his voice remarkably steady. You can't kill both of us and call it an accident. I don't need to, she replied, pacing like a caged animal. Just one of you. The other can take the blame. Her eyes fixed on me, calculating. Thelma finally lost her mind, attacked her own son. When I tried to intervene, she fell and hit her head. Tragic, but not surprising given her deteriorating mental state. My blood ran cold. It was a perfect scenario, one that would leave Marcus devastated and Azalea blameless. And rich. It won't work, I said, my voice stronger than I expected. There's too much evidence now. Judith knows everything. So does Caroline, and Rosalie, and Detective Harmon. They're all expecting to hear from me today. Doubt flickered across Azalea's face, but she quickly masked it. You're bluffing. No one would believe a confused old woman over me. My mother isn't confused, Marcus said firmly. And you're not as clever as you think, Azalea. We have your search history, your financial records, the pills you tried to give her. It's over. Azalea's grip on the knife tightened. It's not over until I say it's over. The sound of a car pulling into the driveway broke the tension. Through the window, I could see Dr. Evans getting out of his car, accompanied by a woman I didn't recognize, and a man in a sheriff's uniform. Relief flooded through me. Caroline must have called them when I didn't check in. Azalea saw them too. Panic flashed across her face, followed by cold resolve. She lunged toward me, knife raised. "Mom!" Marcus shouted, throwing himself between us. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion, Marcus grappling with Azalea for the knife. The front door bursting open, the sheriff drawing his weapon. Azalea's face twisted with fury and desperation. Then a single gunshot rang out, and Azalea crumpled to the floor, the knife clattering beside her. "Are you all right, ma'am?" the sheriff asked, approaching cautiously, his gun still trained on Azalea's motionless form. I nodded, unable to speak, my eyes fixed on the growing red stain on Azalea's blouse. She was still breathing, but barely. Marcus knelt beside her, pressing a cushion against her wound. Despite everything, he was trying to save her. That was my son, compassionate to the core, even toward the woman who had just tried to kill his mother. "Ambulance is on the way," the female doctor, Dr. E. Levine, I presumed, said, joining Marcus in administering first aid. Dr. Evans helped me to a chair, checking my vitals with practiced hands. "Mrs. Lancaster, are you injured?" "No," I managed, my voice shaking. "Just shocked." The sheriff holstered his weapon once his partner had secured Azalea. "We got a call from a Caroline Bennett. Said you might be in danger." "She was right," Marcus said grimly. "My wife just tried to kill my mother. And me. We'll need statements from both of you," the sheriff said. "But first, let's get you checked out." As paramedics arrived and began working on Azalea, Detective Harmon, Caroline's brother, I assumed, approached me. "Mrs. Lancaster," he said gently, "Caroline told me about your suspicions. I'm sorry we didn't get here sooner." "You got here in time," I said, watching as they loaded Azalea onto a stretcher, an oxygen mask over her face. "That's what matters." Marcus sat beside me, his arm now properly bandaged. He looked shell-shocked, his face ashen. "I can't believe I didn't see it," he whispered. "All this time, living with a monster." I took his hand. "She was very good at hiding who she really was. It's not your fault." He turned to me, his eyes filling with tears. "I'm so sorry, Mom. If you had died because I brought her into our lives—" "But I didn't," I said firmly. "I didn't, because I'm tougher than I look, and because I had help." I squeezed his hand. "We're going to be okay." As the paramedics wheeled Azalea out, her eyes fluttered open. For one brief moment, our gazes locked. There was no remorse in her eyes, only cold fury at being thwarted. Then she was gone, and for the first time in weeks, I could breathe freely again. 6 months can change everything, or perhaps more accurately, 6 months can restore what should have been all along. I sat on the porch swing of my new home, a cozy one-story cottage with no stairs to navigate, watching the autumn leaves dance across the lawn. My hip had healed remarkably well, ahead of schedule for a woman half your age, Dr. Evans had said at my last checkup. My shoulder barely ached anymore, except when rain was coming. The physical wounds had mended. The emotional ones were taking longer but healing nonetheless. More tea, Mom? Marcus appeared in the doorway, pot in hand. Please, I said, smiling as he refilled my cup. It's perfect weather for it. He settled beside me on the swing, his own mug cradled between his palms. 6 months had changed him too. New lines around his eyes, a touch of gray at his temples that hadn't been there before. Trauma ages you, but so does wisdom. Judith called, he said after a comfortable silence. She's bringing over that casserole she promised, the one with the green beans you like. I nodded, warmth spreading through my chest. Judith had become a dear friend in the aftermath, checking on me daily, bringing books and puzzles during my recovery, offering the kind of steady support that only someone who truly understands can provide. And Caroline's stopping by later to go over your new exercise routine, Marcus added. She says you're ready to start that water aerobics class at the community center. Good, I said firmly. I'm tired of being coddled. Marcus laughed, the sound easier now than it had been in the early days after the confrontation. You've never let anyone coddle you in your life, Mom. It was true. Even at my weakest, even when playing along with Azalea's schemes, I had been fighting in my own way. That fighting spirit had saved my life. Have you heard anything? I asked quietly, the question that always hovered between us. Marcus knew what I meant. The trial is set for next month. Her lawyer is still pushing for an insanity plea, but the DA doesn't think it will stick, not with her history. After Azalea recovered from her gunshot wound, a clean shot through the shoulder that missed all major arteries, the investigation had revealed far more than even I had suspected. 3 previous marriages, not 2. 2 mothers-in-law who died in accidents. 1 husband who perished in a mysterious house fire after changing his will in her favor. Angela Winters, Alicia Bradford, Amanda Pierce, and finally, Azalea Lancaster. She had changed identities like most women change hairstyles, always staying 1 step ahead of suspicion. Until she met me. Will you have to testify? I asked, watching his face carefully. He nodded, jaw tightening. Both of us will. But the physical evidence is overwhelming, Mom. The forged insurance policy, the pills, her search history. And now the other families have come forward too. I patted his hand. We'll get through it. We've come this far. The aftermath had been brutal. After Azalea's arrest, reporters had camped outside the house, hungry for details of the Black Widow of Bakersfield, as they'd dubbed her. Marcus had retreated into himself, overwhelmed by shame and betrayal. I had moved in with Judith temporarily while he sorted through the wreckage of his marriage. The house, our house, had too many memories, too many shadows lurking in corners. By mutual agreement, we sold it, splitting the proceeds. Marcus bought a small apartment closer to his work. I found this cottage, just 10 minutes from him, but with enough distance to give us both independence. You know what tomorrow is? Marcus asked, interrupting my thoughts. I smiled. Of course. My birthday. 69, he mused. How does it feel? Like a victory, I said simply. Because it was. Each birthday, each holiday, each ordinary Tuesday that Azalea had tried to steal from me was now a triumph. I had survived not just her attempts on my life, but the aftermath too. The police interviews, the media frenzy, the pitying looks from neighbors who whispered behind their hands. I have something for you, Marcus said, reaching into his pocket. I was going to wait until tomorrow, but... He handed me a small velvet box. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet with a single charm, a miniature shield. It's beautiful, I said, touching it gently. It's a protection amulet, he explained, suddenly shy. I know it's silly, but it's not silly at all, I assured him, fastening it around my wrist. I love it. The sun was setting now, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. We sat in comfortable silence, the swing creaking gently beneath us. I filed the divorce papers today, Marcus said suddenly. Final hearing is next week. I turned to him, surprised. I thought that was done months ago. He shook his head. There were complications with her assets being frozen for the investigation, but it's almost over now. He took a deep breath. I'm thinking about dating again. Eventually. I think that's wonderful, I said sincerely. Really. He looked skeptical. After what happened, Azalea doesn't get to ruin the rest of your life, Marcus. She's taken enough. He nodded slowly. I'll be more careful this time. Background checks. References. A wry smile touched his lips. Maybe a psychological evaluation. And you'll listen to your mother's intuition, I added, only half joking. Always, he promised, squeezing my hand. The sound of a car pulling into the driveway ended our conversation. Judith emerged carrying a covered dish, her face brightening when she saw us. Hope I'm not interrupting, she called, making her way up the path. I brought dinner, and dessert, and possibly too much wine. Perfect timing, I assured her, making room on the swing. We're celebrating. Oh, what's the occasion? Marcus and I exchanged a look of perfect understanding. Life, I said simply. We're celebrating life. Later, after a dinner filled with laughter and good conversation, after Marcus had headed home with leftovers and promises to call tomorrow, I sat alone in my new living room. The cottage was quiet, but not lonely, filled with books I wanted to read, projects I planned to start, photos of people I loved. On the mantel sat a small frame, one of the few things I'd kept from the old house. Inside was a photograph taken on my wedding day, nearly 40 years ago. Not of Harold and me, that picture had long since been relegated to a drawer, but of my parents. They stood arm in arm, beaming with pride, unaware that the marriage they were celebrating would end in divorce, that the future held both joy and sorrow. They had raised me to be strong, to be independent, to fight for what mattered. Without knowing it, they had prepared me for Azalea. My phone chimed with a text message. It was from Detective Harmon. Thought you'd want to know. AZ accepted plea deal today. 25 to life. No possibility of parole. It's over. I read the message twice, letting the words sink in. It was over. Not just the investigation or the legal proceedings, but the fear, the uncertainty, the shadow that had hung over us for months. I typed back a simple thank you and set the phone aside. Outside my window, the moon cast silver light across my small garden. In the spring, I would plant roses there, and perhaps some herbs. I had time now. Time I had almost lost. Time I would never take for granted again. As I prepared for bed, I caught my reflection in the bathroom mirror. The woman looking back at me was older. Yes, with lines etched by pain and worry. But her eyes were clear, determined, alive with purpose. I thought of all the women like me. Older, perhaps overlooked, but far from helpless. Women with wisdom earned through decades of living, with strength forged in life's crucible. Azalea had seen me as an easy target, a frail old woman she could manipulate and dispose of. It had been her fatal mistake. Because I was not just Thelma Lancaster, 68-year-old retiree with a broken hip. I was a survivor, and I had so much life left to live, Now, I'm curious about you who listened to my story. What would you do if you were in my place? Have you ever been through something similar? Comment below, and meanwhile, I'm leaving on the final screen 2 other stories that are channel favorites, and they will definitely surprise you. Thank you for watching until here.